be able to pay attention to the event and see what's going on. So as we go through the event, you'll see this closed captioning on the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring the chat. I'll be sharing them with Scott so he can make sure that you get all of your questions answered. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott to introduce himself, share a screen, all of that good stuff, and we'll go from there. So Scott, the floor is yours. Ooh, Scott, I think you're still muted, so you may want to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much for notifying me.
There you go.
I was just inquiring, how tall do I look on Zoom from this angle?
You look very tall.
So yes, my name is Scott Dene. I, have been a product designer for over 5 years now, working on digital products and experiences for companies such as the Coca-Cola Company, Citibank, E-Trade, United States Tennis Association, Lendage, really companies in an eclectic and eccentric range of industries. As you could tell from e-commerce, education, financial, that I'm always happy to talk about. If you're interested in sort of pursuing any of those industries as an avenue of success. So for the time being, I'll be presenting some slides. So hold on a moment. Okay. Can everyone see the slide?
I can, and it looks great. So I think that means everybody else can see it.
Okay, perfect. Yes, okay. Oh, and I forgot to begin. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I don't know, this will be pretty interesting looking at everyone here and looking into the camera. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to talk about the program, let everyone know a bit about it. And please let me know if you have any questions. Please save your questions until the end, and I'm happy to discuss it. So just to give you an idea, we have different teams at Flatiron, and I want to introduce the curriculum team. Our curriculum team is created by a full-time team of design experts. Here are their names. Joshua Robinson is the director of the curriculum team, really the product design team at Flatiron School. He is exceptional. Really, all of them are full of amusement, and they are very informative and educational in the content that they create, and we are always happy to deliver it. And here are our instructors. You'll notice that I am Scott Dene. I no longer look like that anymore, but changes happen. And I think it's just important to sort of have an awareness that throughout the course, you will be having one-on-ones with, say, us instructors. Regardless of who your instructor is, you'll be having one-on-ones with us throughout the entirety of the program, to help your progression in the program. And we offer a wealth of experience and expertise in sort of training product designers. Yes, ultimately our objective for everyone is, for your personal guidance and feedback through the curriculum. Certainly we will be providing prescriptive feedback, on your designs, on your workflows, especially in preparation for developer handoffs that are very important. It's always important for developer handoffs that your design file sort of have granular detail, be extremely well organized, that we will be happy to go over. And additionally, we have this dedicated team of instructional designers with expertise in learning science and learning design. They sort of ensure that the quality of the programs at the Flatiron School. Yes, these are the people over here. Don't worry, I won't be quizzing anyone on sort of names. So can anyone recall sort of the previous team, the product, everyone's name?
Ashley, Scott,
That's a pretty good start. Excellent job. And so, I think it's important, ultimately you would be taking this course, to ultimately obtain a job in product design, and I think it's important to note that according to a report from HR Forecasts, skills in cloud computing, user experience, similar to product design, and VR/AR are expected to be some of the most in-demand jobs over the next 5 years and beyond. Let's hope so, at least. And as a product designer, you could work in any current or emerging technology domain. Ultimately in any industry, they will require a product designer for that matter. And, as a product designer, the focus is on empathy. Now, they say that jobs in empathy will survive the robot takeover. So, ensuring that you are in a job full of empathy is where you will survive automation. And, LinkedIn Learning also forecasts a growing demand for skills in UX design, which I also mean product design, creativity, persuasion, collaboration, and adaptability. And certainly our program targets each of these competencies through the lens of product design. Ultimately, product design, ultimately product design essentially is a large umbrella and entangles each one of those skills. You will have exposure to each one, of UX design, of creativity or persuasion, that you will ultimately be sort of choose what you want to master in, or else for that matter, you could sort of master in the eclectic and eccentric bunch if you so dare. Though you may be considered a unicorn for that matter, if you can do everything, which is not such a bad thing, though you do not want to burn out by trying to master everything. Sometimes it is better if you're more selective, with military precision on what you want to do. And finally, as we see over here, the World Economic Forum highlights the prominence of critical thinking, analysis, problem solving, active learning, resilience, stress, tolerance, and flexibility. When you learn to be a product designer, you gain trusted frameworks for problem solving and collaboration. You also learn to be human-centered and apply values and principles to ethical design practices. And that is something that we absolutely focus on, ethical design. We are absolutely concerned about people's digital well-being and ensuring accessibility across products and services for that matter, ensuring that everyone can use our products and services, taking into consideration their needs. And over here, as I was talking about, every company will ultimately require a product designer to design their product and services. There are thousands of jobs, for product designers right now. Some of the most recognizable companies, as sort of listed here, need product designers. And whether you're looking to join a fast-growing startup, the nonprofit sector, an agency with clients, or be an in-house designer, our program gives you the opportunity to become a product designer where you can choose what kind of avenue of success you want to pursue for that matter. Each one has its advantages and disadvantages that you ultimately need to take into consideration, though you should ultimately be open to all of them. It's sometimes better not to be as selective and rather sort of throw yourself into any opportunity so that you could, rather than sort of after graduation have prejudices, be open to experiences because you ultimately can never be sure what you like or dislike before ever trying it. So do not get me wrong, if you already have a focus, that is also phenomenal. And product designers work across all phases of product development, from early exploration to final execution. And learning to do research is a fundamental part of being a product designer. Products are most successful with users when they are backed by credible research strategy, analysis, and testing. This is where we get into essentially the 4 Ds of essentially discovering, defining, developing, and delivering, for that matter. It is ultimately in the execution that you will be collaborating with developers. That's why it's always good to have an awareness of the needs of developers, maybe even to share that common language with them that could create that much more of an efficient workflow. And that's why our program prepares you to conduct qualitative and quantitative research methods like user interviews, usability testing, creating surveys, and presenting your research findings to an audience of stakeholders. That is an important part. Ultimately, to be able to do your research, to be able to do your designs. And presentations are another skill that you'll acquire in our program, because it is one thing to have your deliverables, to create your deliverables, to hand over to the stakeholder. It is another thing to present your ideas. It may be that you may need to manipulate your deliverables, in order to give a presentation. And when I talk about a presentation, there are different formats, though the most traditional, the conventional one is through a slide presentation, though you could have a whiteboard challenge where you present your ideas and concepts. There are different formats, though, all of which are extremely engaging, that you have to be active in, that you will practice. No one necessarily has an innate skill at presenting, or for that matter, oddly enough, empathy is not an innate skill. It's something that we actually have to learn, which is unfortunate, but that's what you will learn. And UX forms, another part of the overall customer experience. UX takes the research results and begins to map out systems and user journeys to identify the right opportunities. It involves early brainstorming, sketching, and prototyping ideas. Yes, I mean, not only do you sort of begin your work on interfaces, or for that matter, apps and sort of services, your work begins before the usage of that product and service, regarding, say, user flows. How do you engage users before they even sort of use your service or product? How do you bring up awareness? That is everything that you have to think about. Maybe it could be that a user first finds out about your product or service on a bumper sticker of a car in front of you that may, say, spark their interest. And that's something for you to take into consideration. What way and format, do you want someone to discover your products and services? And then, for that matter, how to use it. That is a follow-up. And at least half of our program is dedicated to UX design and methodology, the initial part for the research. And then ultimately we begin to learn about user interface design. Product design essentially envelops all of that, and then when we get into product design, which I am talking early about, which there will be slides later on, that's where you really look into, say, color theory, how colors have an impact on people's cognitive performance because of the moods they engender. Maybe that will make you rethink your favorite color. Blue sparks creativity, red helps people's ability to recall and attention to detail. Green is a passive color nowadays, and yellow is the first color that someone will look at. When you think of stoplights, for example, the transitional color is yellow to notify you that you'll have to stop rather than, accelerate your speed. That's everything you'll learn. Now, let's not forget about typography, which, I'll talk about later on. Now, as a product designer, you should know the fundamentals of what makes a digital interface delightful to use. I think it is so, so important to sort of know that before a user experiences delight, they have to know how to use your product. It should almost be invisible to them how enjoyable of an experience it is. Well, rather, how easy a product is to use for that matter, that contributes to their enjoyment. So rather, the focus should be on ease of use. Now, part of that is on your product and service sort of providing feedback. It is so important that your product and service provide feedback to sort of alert or create awareness about errors or sort of goals of achievement that will contribute to delight. UI design focuses on being able to apply the right patterns to get the job done. It optimizes the use of color, as I got into earlier, typography, animation, and interaction. We also teach you the right way to design for different devices for brands like Apple and Android, as well as web design basics, as you can create your own websites for that matter, that you may be able to do, well, you will do for your portfolio pieces for that matter. We will absolutely touch on development languages such as HTML, CSS, so that you could have that common language. Now, as I sort of was talking about, the importance of typography, that it should not be overlooked. When you essentially visit an app, or for that matter, a website, what do you think takes up the most space on a website or an app? Exactly. It takes up the most real estate on an interface for that matter, because it's informative, it's educational. It informs people what they're using. And for that matter, you have to pay so close attention to typography, such as font pairings. You have to ensure that there is alignment between a skinny 1 and an obese 8, especially when you think about forms or tables. I always think about the acronym CRAP: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. That is very important. You could take that with you through all of your designs, regardless of the devices or, for that matter, formats. CRAP, which if you're in my program, you will hear that a lot. Actually, it's an achievement if I say that you've succeeded CRAP. A good product strategy makes sure your work is making an impact for customers. You want to be able to identify and align project stakeholders on project goals and milestones. You'll also want to understand who your market competitors are and identify unique opportunities to differentiate and innovation. Now, a part of that is identifying conventions, because you never want your objective to create something entirely new. You first want to identify conventions and then see if there are opportunities to enhance it. That way you could succeed at creating something new. The goal should never be solely creativity. It should always be, that someone could use it so that it can be successful in the market, that you could be your competitors in the market. And product strategy comes into play in all areas of product design. So we teach you how to present research, UX, and UI designs. You'll encounter useful guiding frameworks like jobs to be done and useful stories. As I said, there's an emphasis on presentation of all that, for that matter. You need to know how to present that research. And to be able to do that, you first have to understand it. You have to understand the fundamentals that we will absolutely go over in our program. Now, as I was talking about, works across all phases of product development, from early exploration to final execution. You will be responsible for the entire process, essentially, though you will be collaborating with other people on your design team, such as project managers, developers. They are all product managers for that matter. It's essentially an eclectic and eccentric group of people, though depending on if you are working at a startup, it may only be you. You may be the only one that is collaborating with the CEO, or for that matter, the CTO, and maybe one developer for that matter. So it's always good to have an awareness of what you want while not excluding any opportunities, because that is one of the most important things to gain experience. Here is a subheader section slide. Very nice one. So, we're going to get into our program, essentially the structure of our program. And this is like the beginning of it. So our program is spread across 5 phases, 3 weeks in each. And once you complete the prep course of design fundamentals and complete financing, you can either join a live cohort as an in-person cohort in New York, or a part-time flex program. And just so that I am the flex instructor, not to entice you to join flex, though if you're interested in the part-time program, happy to discuss it. And over here on the slide, it's just like the beginning, where the first phase, phase 1, is UX, and the second phase goes into UI. I'll be going into the subsequent phases in the next, though, as I was saying, it's so important to understanding your research and then learning about color theory, information architecture for that matter. There is so much to learn. It's a cocktail mixture of things, though we ensure that you have a firm understanding of every one. And here we go. Here's the rest. Phase 3 is a Studio 1 project where we will give you a creative brief to complete. Essentially, it covers everything you learned in phase 1 and 2. And you will essentially, it is a matter of going through the entire processes that you've learned, the research and then the design, similar to Studio 2. And ultimately you will have phase 5 where that will, go into the development of your portfolio, where, you will include all of your projects. And it doesn't necessarily only have to be from phase Studio 1 and 2. It could be from any point in the program. You maybe want to expand, though I encourage everyone, through the program to ensure that, they think carefully about the designs, even early on, because that can save you time later, rather so that you could immediately grab it and put it into your portfolio if you want it, rather than having to revisit it. Think about crap, do well at crap. The studio phases take, another 6 weeks. You'll complete 2 portfolio projects from beginning to end and begin to write your case studies that will go into your portfolio. Though, like I was saying, it's not limited to Studio 1 and 2. In phase 5, you complete a capstone project that allows you to specialize in research, UX or UI. You'll also begin crafting your portfolio to showcase your hard work and skills, because ultimately your portfolio is what you will send to recruiters. So here we are. After graduation, you'll get extra help from courses in tech prep and career prep. These courses give you an extra confidence in your work. You'll begin meeting with a career coach and receive 180 days of career coaching support. So after graduation, you will not be like a cartoon character dangling off of a cliff. You will have support with career coaches. You will not be alone. So I promise. Now, as I was saying, there are 2 different, well, actually there are 3 different program formats. So there is the full-time that sort of follows this process. And full-time is sort of split between live. So if you're in New York, we have a in-person program where you would come to classes. And alternatively, there is the online full-time program that is through Zoom. And do not get me wrong, I am always happy to talk about part-time, that is Flex, that is the one that I am responsible for. So when it comes to Flex, you can select 3 different pacing. So there is a 20-week pace, a 40-week pace, and a 60-week pace. Depending on your pace, it will ultimately determine when you complete the program. What I did find out is the 60-week essentially equates to a year and 1 month. And I would encourage you that, if you want to take the Flex program, that you ensure that you can remain committed to the program. It requires diligence and sort of self-regulation, to creating a routine. And one of the best ways to creating a new routine is essentially attaching it to a current routine that you have. You'll be using the computer, so I wouldn't suggest using the computer while, brushing your teeth. Maybe it could be, something else that would be more adaptable to using your computer. So, just an awareness. And, for the online, now this will be for the full-time online, classes will be using Zoom and Figma for collaboration and work together on projects. Now, I just want to say, so this is for the live program, whereas with the Flex program, a lot of it, will be on you, though, let me just say, that there's an advantage to that, because we will work closely, instructor and students in one-on-one, ensuring your success, ensuring that you have an immersive understanding. So, I would say that live and Flex are equal. It's just ultimately dependent on your schedule. Because you always have to take into consideration timing. And yes, so here's the live classes for everyone here. It's just down the hall. I think the door is locked though. So no, it's right down there, right down there. And so we'll get into some example project work, just sort of like a handful. And here's a UI project by Justin. Here is sort of an exploration. He used this project for his portfolio for that matter. And, what do you say, what contributed to this design for that matter? What does this exemplify?
Showing some stats and stuff. It's showing like.
What's that? Oh, no. I mean, your ideas are great.
No, I mean, it's using the icons to represent teams and games. So you're assuming your audience is knowledgeable of the icons.
Right. Though, I mean, like, offhand, it's not that you would just want to present your ideas, because it requires an exploration. I would say with the iconography, it's important to have an understanding of whether you are utilizing conventional icons, because you should never use a creative icon without any sort of labeling or exploration. All icons should be accompanied with a label for that matter, ensuring understanding that everyone knows, say, what that icon stands for, what would happen, say, if that icon is actionable, whether it is an affordance or signifier for that matter. Here's another UI project. Oh, by also Justin. This is another one. I mean, look how different it is. Look how many different colors for that matter. This is the importance. Like, it's not like there's one universal, one global color. You also be selective dependent on, say, the objective of the client brief, or for that matter, what you're interested in. Here's a different one. This is by Debbie. I mean, look at the difference in her designs in comparison to Justin's. Like, inevitably, your portfolio, the work that you do, is a billboard of who you are as a designer. It's essentially similar to the clothes that you wear. How does that describe you? Is it reflective of who you are as a person? Does it reflect your interests, your passions for that matter? It's always important to think about that for your designs, while also aligning it with the business objective, or for that matter, the creative brief. Yes, Milka D, I hope I pronounced their name right. Here's an example of sort of research and UX project for that matter. Over there is a site map. If we could see that this over here is a competitive research. It's not that it necessarily needs to be extensive and full of granular detail, though you need to find an expressive way to essentially compress a deluge of information in a most understandable way. It's important to make your ideas clear. Oh yes, and sort of common objectives. Yeah, so over here, I'm not creative. Like, just know, inevitably, this is sort of reflective of, oh my God, I want to say sabotage, but it's not. Has anyone heard of, like, what is that syndrome? Imposter syndrome. Yeah, imposter syndrome. Like, this is sort of related to like imposter syndrome, where you do not feel adequate, that you can ultimately complete the objective. And I find when there's any doubt, and trust me, regardless of the years of experience that you will have, you will still feel that sensation. And I think it's always important to identify that, to address it. I always find, say, a superhero stance to be helpful. Where you essentially spread your legs and put your hands on your hips and really just like stand like that for 5 minutes, especially before a presentation, and it will boost your confidence. I promise you, it is so helpful. I mean, the important thing to know is that you do not necessarily have to be creative. The goal is not creativity. As we were exploring research, the importance of typography, and creativity, I wouldn't say it's like you want to create experiences. It's not that you want to be creative. That showing? I don't want to code, and that's okay. Nowadays, companies sort of are separating teams with designers and sort of developers. Though, let me just say, if you want to code, you absolutely can, though it is absolutely not essential whatsoever. You will be evaluated on the experiences that you design. So over here, I can't quit my job. That's where, flex comes in mind, the 3 different cadences of 20, 40, 60 weeks, that you can absolutely do along with your jobs. Though I think it is important to know, that it's not that you could postpone sort of doing the work. There is like a 12-week gate to each pace. So you have to complete phase 1 through 5 in 12 weeks. Over here, we cover it all. We offer, we do offer the chance to specialize in one of these areas, but still receive the fundamental skills you need to become a product designer, because as we were discussing, it sort of is inclusive of all 3 of those skills. Though let me say, you could explore one as your primary objective if you want. You could specialize in it. And here we are, as I was saying, Joshua Robinson is our director really of the program, of the curriculum team of product design. And here's just a message from a student. It is a nice message from a graduate student who recently scored their first job. Just know that it is going to take effort. It may not necessarily land in your lap right away. And that's why we were talking about that you will not be left like a cartoon character about to fall, because we have that support system for you. And yes, thank you. That's basically it.
Thank you, Scott. Can I ask you some questions that we have that popped up during your presentation?
Is no and
No, it's not, because we still have
Okay,
15
yeah.
minutes. Cool. So somebody asked, do we teach the skills to identify your audience in either of the UX or UI programs? So I think just being able to understand who you're designing for or the type of users that you have.
Absolutely. That is ultimately, you need to have that immersive understanding of who you are designing for. Regardless of the project, that is one of the most fundamental things, to understand your audience, ensuring that you are pursuing digital well-being, accessibility, inclusivity to grow your audience for that matter.
Awesome, thank you. And then another question was, is UI design the same as visual design?
So UI is interface design. Visual design, there's a part of visual design to UI design, though with UI design, it is important to have an understanding of, say, design systems for that matter. Every company has their own design system, to have that awareness based off of operational systems. That is a specialty of UI designers.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I think a couple of times you've talked about like the importance of research and how that's even a part of our program. Can you just talk a little bit more about how folks conduct research, or what that process looks like in relation to some of the mock projects that folks are doing?
Yes, I mean, really it's broken out into two research methodologies. It's qualitative and quantitative. So think about quantitative to be focused on numbers, statistical analysis, and qualitative rather is, I wouldn't say it's exploring answers to why. It is more observative. You are engaging in user interviews. It is sort of in-person contact as opposed to publishing a survey. And you will do both.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions in our chat. I'm not sure if anybody in the room has any questions for you, but if not, I think we can wrap it up and call it a night.
I mean, does anyone have any questions here?
This is kind of like similar, like graphic design, maybe like a term like in similar fields that kind of branches off to or anything.
It's not necessarily graphic design. Yeah, no, I mean, it's sort of like different. So it's not that you necessarily have to have any prior experience in graphic design, because you will essentially learn that in this program. The differences, sort of like graphic design may be more focused for print as opposed to, with UI design, it is more focused on sort of the fundamentals, on adaptability based off on the product and service, the operational system. That is always important to take into consideration. I would say, like websites like Behance, are so fun to look at, the animations, the designs that they have. However, it is a bit hazardous as well, because, the designs that they have on there may not actually be developed by, and executed in the real world. it is nice to look at. Do not get me wrong, though. You should not expect that those designs could be in the real world.
Scott, we got a couple more questions I want to throw your way. The first one, I think you'll be able to speak to because I think it's similar to your experience, but this individual has been programming for many years in PHP. They know some JavaScript, CSS, HTML, and they're wondering if going through the UX UI program would help them land UI jobs quicker because of that coding experience.
I mean, that is inevitably an advantage, absolutely, to have that awareness, to have that common language that you could collaborate with developers. Though I just want to once again emphasize that nowadays, sort of companies are keeping their teams separate, though to have that common language can be hugely helpful, though not a requirement.
Cool. We got a couple of questions about the Flex program specifically. So the first one is, given that it's longer than the live program, are you covering any topics more deeply than you would in some of the other courses, or can you just kind of explain how the curriculum is maybe spread out a little bit more over that time for folks?
Yes, I mean, ultimately, let's just remember that, there are 3 different cadences and that it is broken up into 12 weeks if you want to pursue the longest sort of cadence. I would say that there can be more personal contact with your instructors, more one-on-ones, where we not only sort of explore, say, the curriculum, we could also explore other things that you may want to. There are no necessarily add-ons, though I think there's more of a focus on presentations when it comes to Flex.
And then I think kind of drilling down a little bit more into some specifics, someone wants to know how many hours a week they should expect to spend on coursework if they're doing the 40-week Flex program. I don't know if you know the specifics of that.
The arithmetic calculations. I mean, for the 40-week, I would essentially encourage people to spend maybe about 20 hours a week.
Awesome. I think that's it. Yeah, it looks like folks feel happy with the information we shared. I'll give a call for any other questions online, or Scott, if there's any questions in the room that folks have.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about the hours too, but another question I had was about usability studies. I get that we're throwing at me a lot when I talk with the design I work with. Like, can you just give like a little like what specifically are those, and like what is it a lot of work? Is it a big part of like a design process, or just one piece?
Oh yeah, I mean, with usability studies, it's ensuring that your product, your designs are as described in, are usable for that matter, that it's a seamless understanding. Like, rather, if you have complex designs that may require a user like 5 minutes to ultimately find the button to send a link, you would find that out through a usability study.
So how would you kind of like form that study? Do you build a tested prototype and bring users to it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay,
Though
build something kind of like.
Though, I would encourage you for it to be structured. It's not like a matter of just like giving it to someone,
Right. Okay.
like putting it on. It's more, there is more of a calculation to it.
Okay. I got it. Like design test. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. That helps a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah. No problem.
I was wondering if it's possible to. I seen that like tonight we saw like a bunch of like stats, charts, and stuff.
Yeah.
Product designs and stuff. I was wondering if this was possible to be applicable in like maybe applications like mobile video games applications, like smart, like little things maybe.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like learning like Apple, iOS and whatnot, and all that good stuff, so that.
Oh yeah. I'm telling you definitively and irrefutably, it is applicable to those industries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying you have to have it. You
Yeah.
can't really do it without it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Oh, I think that's all of our questions. So I am going to give us a break here and I'm going to say thank you everybody for coming. We will make this recording available to folks. Frank, I saw your question in the chat about syllabus for our different programs. If you work with our admissions representative, we do have those available, so you can grab those there. And if you ever have any other questions, please reach out to myself, to Scott, and we appreciate you all coming tonight.
yes, thank you. And thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay.